fellow legends and super legends, welcome to Veloharmony. This morning Paul came to the house. We're getting ready to head out to meet Team RR of the Woodland Cycling Group. It's barely dawn. It's about 5:40, it says 5:50 on the timer there. So Paul drove over to the house so we could ride together from here, because we end up with almost 120 kilometers by the end of the ride. For some reason, my first segment recorded here didn't have any sound. Anyhow, this is the route. Call it Mount Pleasant Road South, because that was the route we ended up doing after meeting. Head up from Northampton together. We went to the Woodlands. We met the group, picked up the group. Alan joined us at the right start. He was there. So there was 3 of us in our team kit. And we headed out to Honier. We used Fish Creek and went out to Montgomery. We went on 149. This is where we hit the forest, headed south. We came back on 1097, back into Montgomery. We stopped at a store there. And then after the store, we headed back the way we came. It was kind of like an out and back because it was going to be a long day anyway. Part of the group went to a place called Dacus. The rest of us came back into the woodlands. There was a lot of up and down. We did some sprinting in the forest, and I think you will enjoy the clips. Half of the group was out of town, so it was a small group. It was about 6 or 7 riders, I believe. So here we're headed out of the parking lot of the Crust Pizza.
Okay.
There's Alan on my left there, on my right.
I like this route, Alan. There's a nice, beautiful road through the Sam Houston National Forest. Coming back, yeah. So it's probably... Are you
guys gonna come back this way? Or?
Yeah, we're coming back here. And we'll just ride to the house from here. Yeah. We'll come back and drop you off. Because a lot of these guys ride from home. Car ride.
There's a car coming, but he let us go.
So a lot of these guys...
he just stopped, and so we just went ahead and rode across.
You need to do that.
This is Alden Brown. I didn't expect him to stop. We were waiting for him, but we'll take it.
Right turn. Clear.
Alan hasn't been on this route, so I continue just gonna let him know. He's been in the area, but not the exact
I'm just gonna stay on
route.
the road.
I let them know I'm gonna use the road because this lane on the right, the shoulder
So
ends.
normally that's about anywhere from 10 to 12 riders. A bunch of them went to that ride I told you about. Yeah. So it's a good sized group, and it's fast. I rode with them last week. It was a hammer fest. I got home, I slept. Yeah. Especially with the terrain they ride. They go north, they do different things. Same area, but different roads. So you end up knowing the area, but he's like, oh, I haven't been on this road. Yeah, so it's kind of neat. I found a lot of new roads with them.
So I'm just gonna let Alan know, he's been in the area. He did the RBC Grand Fondo also, so he's familiar with the area. And I'm just letting him know that this group normally, they have like 10 to 12 people then plus us, so you're talking 15 to 17 guys. I mean, it's a good sized group. So it's good to have Paul here, so I finally get a little bit of a relief from camera duty. Paul takes over the camera here. That's Mary on the right, and then Davis in the front. Davis is really into safety. She's got a mirror. If you look at her helmet, I don't know if it's attached to the helmet or her glasses, but I've tried those mirrors. I just could not get accustomed to using them. It seems to work for her. I just find it easier to just look back periodically or use my hearing. So we're using the lane here. When you get on the right shoulder at every intersection, on and off, there's a curve that juts out. Those of you who have seen some of the other videos are probably aware of that. So I just stay on the road. That's there are two Pauls here. Paul has the camera. The other guy's name is Paul also. Paul's on the right is in his 70s. When you have a smaller than normal group, the dynamics are different. That's Alan back there. So we got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, myself 4. So there's probably 6 riders in the group. Normally we have, say, 15. It's a big difference because you have more people that can pull. You have a bigger group creating a better draft for you. That's all different. So once I realized that, my goal in this ride is to pull longer, keep it as steady as possible, and just keep the group together. Now Davis rides at a slightly slower pace than the group usually. She's training for some long distance event, and so she likes to keep her speed, she says, steady. I train differently. I don't care how long the event is. I try to do a little less than the event, but then ramp up the effort, because that still prepares you to handle something longer. That's Paul over there on the right. Everybody rides differently week to week. You guys know that some days you get up, you're not at your best, and so you kind of have to kind of gauge. And I'm getting used to the body dynamics of some of the people in this group. And so today I could kind of tell that Paul was not feeling like going super hard. Not Paul, my buddy, the guy on the right there. And even Paul, my buddy, he just got back from being sick. He's been away from this kind of riding for 3 weeks. That's a long time. He has been riding, but it's different when you're trying to get back from illness and you're just riding by yourself. You still have to adapt. And so I mentioned that to him. I said, you know, when we're riding to the ride, I told him, your goal should be sit in, see how you feel, see how you like the dynamics of the ride, and see how your body's doing. That's really what you have to do. So that's kind of what we chatted about. And Alan's been on vacation. He hasn't been riding as consistently. So he's been off the bike on and off. And so, you know, he's getting back into it. So everybody's at a different level or different training per se. That's the reason why you're always going to see things different from your mates. So, you know, if you're feeling good, go ahead and pull longer. That's just the way you do it. That's the whole point of riding together. So I drop my gearing here and I keep my cadence up just to kind of stay with Davis. It's early in the ride and we're just kind of heading out here. There's a construction area coming up on the right. So this lane is blocked. So my mantra is, if I'm feeling good and other people, let's say other people are not feeling great or they don't want to go as fast, I stay at the front longer. Those of you who are regulars here, you know, same thing I do in the winter. Because if I sit there longer, I get a workout. But by keeping it steadier, people get to stick around. You know, there's no point to riding away from people who are not going well that day or whatever. It's not a competition, you know. So the key is that you have to think about your mates in the group and, you know, what's going on with them. And so that's why a lot of times you will see me follow people who are going really hard, like when they attack, then I just kind of latch on and see what's going on. So today I just kind of sense that there's a smaller group. I will sit up there longer, you know, and just make sure that we kind of stay together. That's the plan. And there's nothing I need to discuss with anybody. That's just the way I was taught when I started cycling. Is that you still get a workout by taking longer pulls because it builds your engine. Because you're not in the draft, you can just sit up there longer and just tone the effort down a bit. So David says car back. I don't hear anything, but I know she's giving us warning early because she's using that mirror that she has. So I'll in a little bit, I'll look back. Then I slip behind Paul up there. I don't even think the car came up this way. I think it may have turned. I'm not sure. Oh, there it is. Okay. So he gave us plenty of room. There's a construction going on, and so I mentioned to Paul they ought to just fix the whole road because it looks like they're adding an extra lane for turning cars into, you know, a new lot. And so he explained to me that there is a coalition of business owners in this area that are investing in getting this road completely repaved. So you see all the barrels on the right, where you see on the left also they're clearing. So this road is going to be improved, and it's about time. It's been chopped up for a long time, and it might be political between the counties and who own the road sometimes. So we went over a bump there, and you know, you heard David say, "Ooh," but you know, she rides there all the time. I'm not sure why she was surprised by that. But I'm looking at the road, and there's a little lip. In a little bit, you'll see me jump where the asphalt meets the concrete. I basically jump it because it's a good enough gap right there. Yeah, because I don't want to ride over it. So whenever possible, I jump those little. That's a big expansion crack there. So that's what they're going to improve. They improved up to here. And for the first time in a long time, we hit a green light here. And even Davis made a comment that Paul brought us luck.
That's brought us good luck, Paul, because that's never green.
That's what David said, Paul. You brought us good luck, Paul. That's never green. It's never green. I always have to stop there. But the reason I jumped that thing was it was wide enough where the asphalt and the concrete was to where I just didn't feel like rolling over it. If I do roll over it, I slow way down. Saves your wheels, but if you're gonna do stuff like that, make sure you know where the other members of your group are. That's why, you know, I looked around, I knew nobody was close, and I accelerated and then jumped it real quickly. You don't want to endanger anybody else. This lady on the right, on my right and your left, is not riding with us, but she was invited to join us, and she said she will see, because she was gauging it based on the pace. So Paul had moved to the front to film different angles here, and it's Alan rolling back. The car is still behind us. When I saw him do that, I knew he wasn't going to stay up there. That's why I just rolled past Paul. I knew he was just getting angles. I didn't want him sitting in the wind because he hasn't been out here, and today's pace was a little less than the effort when the full group is here, but I still wanted him to kind of save his energy because these hills take a lot out of you. If you looked at the profile when the film started, you can see it looked like shark's teeth almost. We head north because it's the most challenging part of town, and those hills will sap you, especially on a humid morning like this. Now, Alan's helmet he's wearing, it's kind of an aero, looks like a Specialized. I thought it was his casque, because he used to have a casque. Because Paul and I talked about, you know, Alan was perspiring and he was pushing down the helmet and dripping the, you know, draining the sweat off the brow band. And I thought he was wearing his casque, but that's a different helmet, because his casque has a lid that you can slide back and increase the ventilation. That car has the stop sign, we don't. So we have the right of way. And he looked at it slowing. And at the front, I let everybody know it was clear for us, the car was there. In a little while, we get to see the fawns, I guess the baby deer, with spots all over them. I was like, I hadn't seen these little ones out here. It's usually the fully grown ones. So as we head over there, I'm in the front and I spot the deer. And so what I do is the fawns, and I move to the left, right there. I move to the left. There's the deer. There's a bunch of them there. And I just move over and let everybody know, because I didn't want them darting across the road there. I hadn't seen any of them out here in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I give them room because they cross the road in a jittery manner. They don't check. You know, dogs would check before they go on the road, but those guys, I give them room. Turning left here. This will take us to Fish Creek, which is 2978 Farm to Market Road. We're going to head north. We takes us into Hornier. The part of the film here, we filmed all the way into the forest, and we actually ended up ending the clips as we left the forest.
Clear.
So we didn't want to film the whole ride. The ride was very long. We rode more than 5 hours. So we just got the early to the middle part of the ride. So knowing that the group is small, I'm at the front. This is where the open road begins. And so I resign myself to finding a pace that will keep us together. You can see Davis is already like a bike length off of Paul. That's her comfort level until she gets comfortable with you. I've seen her draft closer, but most of the time she just sits a little off the back. So what we try to do is to make sure, just like the full group does, we have periodic regrouping points. The reason being is we're gonna ride the climbs as hard as we want. We might be maybe 30 seconds ahead or 45 seconds or a minute ahead, and then we can soft pedal after those hard areas, which allows the riders that didn't want to go up the climbs at our pace the chance for the group to get back together. And this is where everybody gets to work out. Because if I'm going to come out here, I want to ride these climbs hard. I don't want to go up the climb less than, unless it was an easy day. And Saturday, I want to work out. And most riders that come out on Saturday are looking for a workout too. So I decided to sit up there for a long time and then let someone else take over. And so that way, and I plan to stay near the front and do a lot of pulling. That way we can keep the group moving. Because I could tell that, I hadn't seen Alan in a while. It's been a few months. Since mid-April we rode in the RBC Grand Funda. So I kind of had a feeling he'd been off his schedule. It's summer. He's been traveling and doing other things, personal vacation and stuff. So it breaks up your fitness. So he's trying to get back into things. But he rode well. Everybody rode pretty well. So it was a good ride. So next Saturday we'll have the full group back. It should be even more interesting. And every week that you get back into your routine, your body adapts if you do the work. So you got to do the work. So while I'm up there, I'm looking at the clock, and I realized we rode almost 30 minutes to get to the groups. I figured it's 30 minutes into the ride, we can notch it up a bit. So right around here, I start inching the speed up. The road is slightly rolling down to flat. Pretty much. It's not much of a descent, just a flat road. And so I'm inching the effort up a little bit. I'm moving into my tempo zone. What I tried to do, if I'm following somebody, and Paul and I discussed this after the ride, we're just having a conversation after we got back. If I'm following somebody and I'm in zone 4 when I'm following them, and we're riding hard, when I get to the front, I want to get to zone 5 when I'm at the front, which will be about the same effort. That's kind of the way I do it. So like right here, I'm in zone 3, right at the top of zone 2. And that seems to be good. Nobody's coming around me or whatever. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to keep the effort in the same area here. Zone 2 to zone 3 for me, which will put a lot of riders in the back close to that zone, or some of them a little higher. You just kind of gauge it. You just kind of gauge it to see if it's a good pick. Because if it's slow and you're riding with people, they don't have to say anything. They'll just come around you. If you're at the front pulling and you're not going hard enough and they want to go faster, they'll come around you and then you just slot in. So since nobody said anything or nobody came around, I decided to keep the effort there. So here we're going downhill. I shift up and I'm riding downhill. I don't want to coast. And I just find a harder gear, not too hard, that would keep me close to 90 plus. That's all I'm doing here. Alan's moving to the right to catch wind to slow him down, because since you're going downhill, you get sucked in. That's what he's doing there. I'm staying a little to the right because the wind is coming from the right and slightly behind, but mostly from the right. We have an east wind this morning. It's a very humid morning. I'm in zone 3, so I figured this is a good effort for everybody. The same thing you can do if you're using power meters. You gotta have to gauge, okay, what zone was I in? What power was I putting out when I was behind this person? And power meters are more accurate. If you're putting out 250 watts behind that person, what that means is when you get to the front, you're probably putting out 275 to 300 because now you're in the wind. And so you try to use feel and those numbers to keep, if you want to keep the tempo the same. The light's changing up here, so I'll signal and let everybody know early. And we're just kind of coasting. And Davis has 2 lights in the front. She's really into safety.
You're careful with that.
Yeah, she tells Paul to be careful with the camera. The camera got nothing to do with he's holding the camera up to get a film to film from behind. She said, "Be careful with that thing." So Paul rides back around her. I just noticed that she had 2 lights on in the front. So now Paul comes to the side to film here, and this is the thing I didn't expect him to do on this ride. I mean, I guess today is okay because we're not really going full gas, because that's what saps your energy. But he's trying to get a shot here. You see Mary's hair in the wind. We don't have a lot of heavy head wind, but the wind's out there. We're moving at a good clip. This road goes slightly uphill. You see how Mary is close to Paul? The guy behind me, our other Paul, she's about maybe 12 inches or less off his wheel. And the gap's opening a little bit. The road must be going up a bit. Okay. Yeah, but you want to stay about a foot. As long as you don't overlap, you're good. And the faster you go, the closer you want to get when you're drafting. So I get off the front here, and you will see in a little bit, I'm going to drop my head to look down. I'm looking for the wheel. I see nothing, so I fill the gap right there. You can see I didn't let much room occur. You want to save your energy. So Paul left a gap behind me, and I saw that. That's how you look behind in the group. You don't have to turn your head. I'm looking down under my arm at the road. So I looked at the back of Mary's wheel, and I saw there was a huge gap, so I just moved over and filled it. It's the economy of motion. And when you ride and you're trying to get off the front, you've probably seen the pros do it. If the change, like I pulled off to the right because the wind is coming from the right, and I saw that the guy in the front, Paul, was sitting on my left, so I pulled off to the right. So in that instance, I flicked my elbow. I flicked my left elbow, and he just moved to the front. Now, when he gets off the front, he's going to take his hands off the bike, tap himself on the hip. That's a lot of movement just to tell somebody to come up. Try not to do that. Economy of motion. The less you do, the more energy you save. So it's a lot easier to just flick your elbow on the side the rider's on to let them know you want them to come up than to lift your hand off the bar, tap yourself on the hip. You know, some people do that. I don't do all that. Less is more for me. So since I'm in the draft, I'm using a slightly larger gear. I'm using a slightly lower cadence than I would do at the front, because you can kind of roll. I'm letting people know that the light changed to red. This light is odd. It changes quickly. It favors the highway. It's red. Then it turns to green before we get there, but then it switches back to yellow, you'll see. So we're rolling to it. Now it turns green. Right there, we're trying to get through it. Then it will go yellow, and I'll let Mary know, and then I'll let everybody know that we're stopping. It did it very quickly. It did the same thing to us last time we came through here.
It's the same light that caught us on the where's that one time.
And you'll see it's going to change. Look, it's green again. I'm not sure how they're cycling it, but there were no cars on the opposite road, so I don't know. There's a rider on the right there, guy out riding. We greeted him as we went by. So because of the stop at the light, I changed positions with Mary. I don't mind because the group is small, and if I have to get back to the front, that's not a problem. I turn off my light here because a lot of times in a group, you're more visible, and I'm going to save my light for after riding with the group when I'm on the way home. I usually do that. So I know I have enough. Even though this light is rated at 9 hours, as they age, their runtime decreases. And I've had these lights for a while. Because here you can still see it has a reflective surface in there. When I'm riding with the guys, when I would bring the camera out, I didn't do as much as Paul is doing here. I held that camera and just rode because it takes a lot of energy to flip it around and do all of that. I mean, you guys saw me do it a few times and I would lose ground, like during the attack. And so when I'm riding hard, I just hold that camera in one position as much as possible, unless we back off the power. It does take a lot of energy to focus on that, because you're using your mind on that. So right here behind Paul, I'm in zone 2, and he's on his bars. And what you will find is the other Paul, my buddy, didn't recognize that. I will point it out in the ride later, that he was trying to get Paul, who has the camera, to go around him so he could be the last rider in the group, so he could rest on his bars. Because a lot of people that ride with those bars, when it gets really hard, they prefer to be on the bars. But he didn't want to do it being the rider before the last rider, meaning Paul with the camera. So he tried to wave Paul around. Paul said, "No, I'm good, I'm here." He didn't get what he was trying to do. He wanted Paul to come up so he can get on his bars. Because he doesn't want to be on the bars in the pace line. So even though it's a smaller group, from looking at my effort level, we're pretty much riding at the same effort we do with the larger group. Because you're in a draft, you have more of a draft, but still, I'm looking at the zones. I mean, we're approaching the bottom of zone 4 because of this climb. This has to be near Ridge Lake Shores here. That's kind of what it looks like. Yep, that's the entrance to Ridge Lake Shores. We used to go in there and do loops. Yeah. So we're at the bottom of zone 4 here. That's about the same effort with the other group. And that's what I do when I train solo. I mimic the effort either by heart rate or perceived exertion. Because hard is hard. It doesn't matter who you're riding with. So if you pick the right area to ride in, the right terrain, you don't have to push yourself. The terrain will get you into the zones you want to get to. You literally have to select your gears. If you look at my hands on the bars, look at my fingers, just relaxed, gradual, just wrapping the bars. No weight on the bars. I'm just casually resting on the bars like you would if you were playing a piano. That's what I try to impact and impart to people when I'm talking about fit on the channel. Some guy who's not a subscriber saw the video for one of the older videos I made about sloping saddles, should you follow the pros. And he made a comment which was held and never made it to the channel. And he said that I was given erroneous information because most of the top breakaway riders ride with sloping saddles. And so I laughed when I saw the comment. I approved the comment because when it's your first time on the channel, if you have links in your address or whatever, YouTube will hold it because they don't want people just advertising on other people's channels. So I approved the comment so I could reply to him, and all I told him was, We can't take your comments seriously if you don't support your comments, meaning who are the top breakaway riders you're talking about? So I listed, is it Merckx, Le Mans, Fignon, Hinault? You know, I couldn't put everybody there because I would put Armstrong, Dumoulin, Froome. Well, Quintana's not a great time trialist per se. Or even Sagan. I mean, he's turned out some great time trials in his time. Who are these people that are riding with sloping saddles that you saying the top riders? So I suggested to him, why don't you open a channel, start a channel? You know, channels are free to start. Start a channel, since you think I'm misinforming people, so you can inform them correctly. You know, I said, but unless you can support your comments, I can't allow it to, you know, I can't have a comment on the channel that might he's the one misleading people by saying the top breakaway riders have sloping saddles. I'm thinking, that does this guy ride bikes? You see my position on the screen as I talk about it? That's a time trialing position. Nothing says you have to be sitting on the tip of your saddle to go fast. When I used to time trial, I just put clip-on bars in the same position and just go. You saw the guys maybe a season or so ago, they went to a race in the Middle East. I don't know if it was Bahrain or somewhere in the Middle East. They didn't allow them to take their time trial bikes for some reason, the race. So everybody time trial, even Sagan, Mark Cavendish, they time trial on their road bikes. They didn't change their position, they just rode. And most of the riders anyway prefer their road position. They make a lot of compromises on these new time trial bikes that they're making. A lot of times. His comment was, in order to roll your hip forward, you need your saddle to be sloping. That's nonsense. The saddles are designed to allow your hip to roll when you're in the drops. You know, so those kind of comments, you know, if I weren't somebody that has done a lot of fits on other cyclists, including myself, I wouldn't have bothered replying, because the thing is I would have nothing substantial to give this guy. So my reply did not even talk about the fact that I do a lot of bike fits, which he obviously didn't know. I just asked him to say who the top, you know, the top breakaway riders he's referring to. Who are they? So we can look at their position, get a picture of their position and show me. And even if that's the case, maybe that works for that one rider. It doesn't mean it works for everybody. I can tell you how many people have gotten into my studio complaining about discomfort, thinking it's their hands that's causing it to go numb. And as soon as I adjust the saddle, they're like, oh wow, I would have never thought about that. You know, so I told them, open a channel and support your stand and inform people, since I'm misinforming instead of just, I said, we can't take this comment seriously. So of course, I deleted the comment. I replied so he would get the information, and then if he wants to come back and substantiate his comments with facts and proof, yeah, we'll put it on there. And then all you'll say is, this rider rides with sloping saddles. Doesn't mean it works for everybody. Same thing. That's it. So it was kind of a good little discourse. I just kind of laughed. But it's proof that marketing works. Look at this guy's hand. I'm showing that to show you how look at all that just to tell me he's getting off the front. That's what I was talking about. You don't need to do all of that. Flick your elbow. Flick the elbow closest to me, I will know. Since we're rolling downhill, I'm looking behind to see where Davis is. I want to make sure the group is together. Because right here, the power's off. We're just rolling downhill. That's the benefit of going up the overpass. So I look and I see that not everybody's there. Not 100%. So in a little bit, I asked Paul.
Yeah, pretty much.
So he says pretty much, but I don't see Davis. So I asked for Davis, and then I just let him know that we're turning left on a quieter road, about maybe 250 meters down the road. And so I've told him that when we turn, we can kind of back off and wait for her there, because you don't want to wait on a road like this. There's no wide shoulder, and it's just 2 lanes, so we just want to get off of it. But you guys look at me on this bike here. I am comfortable. I don't have any numb hands, no numb fingers, no numb elbows. I'm holding the tops of the bars, but I'm just holding them. I'm not resting on my bars.
Okay.
I tell him, Paul, there's a car up the road coming off the road right there. That's where we're turning. I'm letting Paul know. You guys have seen, those of you who have seen enough of the videos, my weight's on my rear and my feet proportionately. There is no weight on the bars. So my handling is not compromised. So I don't have sore neck, sore elbow, all of that. If my saddles were sloping, if my saddle was sloping, gravity would force me to slide. That's the issue with sliding, with sloping saddles. If your saddle's tilted down, you will slide. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna put weight on your hands and push back. We turn left here. You handle the bike better when you're comfortable. Because I can lean my bike with the best of them when necessary. So I'm soft pedaling here. You see my cadence dropping. I downshifted, and I'm just kind of soft pedaling.
Slow down.
And so because I don't move around, I don't have problems with saddle sores and all that kind of stuff. So it really bugs me when people come and put comments that say, like that guy that said, oh, you know, the top breakaway riders ride with sloping saddle. Like that's a requirement to be able to ride hard. That just showed that he doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't know what kind of riding he's done, but it can't be a whole lot. You know, because I don't talk about things that I haven't researched or actually done. And I mean really researched. If I haven't done it, I research it. If I've done it, I use my personal experience to guide people instead of just reacting to what I saw on TV, which means nothing. Somebody can tilt their saddle for one race and then go right back. Those of you who remember Steve Bauer, right here, we're still waiting on Davis. She's further back. They're stopping over there, and then Paul's going to tell me that we're stopping.
Slow down in there. They stop.
Drop it or?
No.
She's Miss what I call her Safety USA.
Yeah.
So they're coming. Davis finally made it. I edited the film a bit. We waited for maybe 15, 20 seconds. So I'm just letting Alan know where we are so he can get his bearings. Because he knows the area, but he's never been on this road. It's just a different way out there, so I'm letting him know. And what I was talking about, I wanted to just mention about Steve Bauer. Steve Bauer used to ride for Motorola, and he used to do really well in Paris-Roubaix. And then one season, he made this really wild-looking bicycle with a real radical, shallow angle and whatever. He rode Paris-Roubaix with the bicycle for one time. He didn't do very well in the race. And I don't know if it's because of the bike, but we never saw that bike again. But the reason I'm mentioning it is before the race, there was a big write-up about the bike, and he was going to be doing these radical changes. You remember back in the day, some of the guys would use mountain bike shocks on their road bikes just to do Paris-Roubaix. All of that's gone by the wayside. So just because they try things doesn't mean it's going to stick around. So you can't go by what you see in one ride, one race. You got to really know what you're doing. Those guys have the right to try things. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Yeah. So right here, I just kind of use the opportunity. I go up the climb. I'm kind of stretching my legs, rolling up the Davis here. I just noticed that there wasn't a whole lot of impetus today. Maybe people were tired or whatever. But I knew that Alan hadn't been riding, and so he just came to kind of get out. And so all we're trying to do is keep things moving. That's all I'm doing here. Because the way I ride, if I notice that nobody wants to go to the front for whatever reason, I just go and I keep the pace reasonable, keep it steady, so everybody enjoys the ride. That's the key. So I get behind Davis and I bug her. I tell her, you're going to have to pull us because we had to wait for you. She's like, yeah, right. Something like that, you know. And so I'm sitting on her wheel and cajoling her to pull us to the corner up there. And this is the route that I was explaining to Alan. He's been on the road we're coming to, but he's never been in this direction to get to it. So then he realizes where we are. Because a few years ago we would come out here and ride out here, and I was telling him, we took it straight from 2854. And he said, oh yeah, now I remember. That's what we're talking about up there. So I realized that Davis is still just kind of lightly touching the pedals. And so in a little bit, I go ahead and roll to the front. We've got some nice climbs through here so we can get through there. And I check behind before I go. I always look to make sure because I want to give her enough room as I go by. And I didn't accelerate. You notice she's getting closer to me right there. I didn't accelerate. I just kind of moved by slowly and I gave her a wheel. That encouraged her to get on my wheel. Because you have to go with the character of the group on each day is going to change. Most of the hotheads are out of town. So today, really, it's kind of a subdued group. And so I'm going by that. I'm going by the character of the group. So I didn't accelerate around her. I just kind of rolled slowly and smoothly and just slipped my wheel in front of her. That allowed her to get on my wheel. And so we have a baseline. It's hard to know what effort to keep up there. And so I'm just keeping it around zone 2 to zone 3. That's where I am. And because this road is going up, we're gaining elevation the entire time. If you look up the road where it curves to the left, it curves and it goes up. It may be not a whole lot, maybe 1%, 2%, but that's how you ride the mountains. Even if you ride the mountains, it's not always 11%. You got pictures of those and then it levels off. Those of you who ride in mountainous areas, you know what I'm talking about. You get up to a certain elevation and then it levels off. And all you're fighting really is altitude. It's similar even on these small hills. We're gaining elevation and then you got little spikes. That's why the profile when I started the film shows it looks like a shark's teeth profile because it's up and down. So all you have to do is make sure you keep your rhythm the same. I actually have added a title to one of the upcoming videos. I want to address that, how you ride with consistent rhythm. So I check, there's nothing coming. It's a 4-way. Let everybody know it's clear. And Davis is waving Mary to go around her. I don't know if Mary goes around her or not, but I think she sees the hill up there. There are a couple of hills coming up, and I don't think she plans on riding at our pace. I'm not riding any harder than I was, but once you hit the climb, you got to put some force into it. So she waved Mary around. Mary did not go around. So we got 2 Pauls on the rear here. This is Paul here and then Paul holding the camera. All I'm doing is keeping the effort the same. I'm at the front, we're going downhill. I shifted up and I just kept pedaling. I'm not coasting. And if you watch, I'm not going to change my effort. I'm going to shift. I continue to shift down as the road goes up here. It's going up. And look at my cadence. It's gonna stay about the same because all I'm doing is finding a gear that lets me keep it there since I want to keep everything steady. Now look at Davis, she's working harder. Paul got in the way there. I want to see if we get a good shot right there. She's working harder, but we're still gaining ground. That's just the strength. She can't turn that gear any harder, so I think she downshifted. So now Paul goes around her. and he rides up to us because I'm keeping it steady. You can see my cadence 85, 84. As it got steeper, it went down a little bit, but I did not increase my gearing or my force. I wanted to keep it steady. So they're not that far behind. There may be a few seconds just there. You know, you coast and they'll be back. And that's the goal. That's what I'm trying to accomplish up there. Just keep us through here to where we're riding at a decent pace. The effort's about the same. Zone 3 at the most. You know, my goal is zone 2, but then when you hit the hills, it goes up a little higher. So I'm just keeping everything steady. And by pedaling downhill, it helps my legs recover. So we're doing another hill again. And all I do is find the gear that will keep my rhythm the same. That's all I'm doing. You end up looking like a machine up there. I wish we had a way to just keep. Paul's trying his best to get a shot, but you know, we're riding pretty hard here in these climbs. But you can see by my cadence, I'm just staying around the same range. And every time you see me, my cadence looks the same. Besides what you see on the screen, if you just watch my action on the bike. We turn right here. I explained to Alan that the last time we came, we went straight. When he rode with us a few years ago, that's what he's familiar with. And I explained to him as we turn. And I think Paul tells us that we need to slow down.
Slow down.
So I just soft pedal right there. I stopped pedaling, and we're chatting. I'm explaining to Alan that last time we went that way.
Watch out on this side.
So there's a rider on his left.
They're here.
So I let him know somebody's on his left. That's Mary. So this is just to let Alan get more familiar with where we are, even though he's been out here. It was just to let him know that, okay, this is where we went the last time. It kind of, familiarity helps you relax when you're riding, you know, so that's all that was about. So we're all back together, and so I'm not sure what we're talking about, but we chat a little bit and then we resume. So we're going downhill, and I'm in the same gear. I'm just keeping the effort about the same. That's all we're doing here. And this is not going to be the same next week. We get a bunch of guys out here, and everybody's doing something different. So somebody might go harder down here. Then somebody else chases them. Then you have to decide: do I just stay with the people who are riding steadily, or do I go with these guys, or do I just wait to get to the behind the last rider when everybody comes around? Those are the kind of decisions you make when you ride in a group. You don't have to chase everything. If you're feeling great, fine. You want to play, you do that. You need to have your own goal for the day. So, but by staying at the front, I'm getting my workout, even though the zone is less. But when I hit the climbs, I'm hitting, you know, as far as effort level, I'm riding the climbs hard, and then we back off after the climb. It's almost like doing intervals in the gym with weights, where you do 12 reps and then you take a break. So if you ride every time the road goes up, if you ride it hard and then rest on the downhill, you're still getting a workout. So just because you wait for the group to regroup does not mean it's any less of a ride. That's the point I'm trying to get across. You can hear the wind. It was there from the right at this point in the ride for the most part. It was from the east, which is right. But it was a humid morning. When we would stop, we were drenched.
Slow down a bit.
So Paul's telling us to slow down because Davis was once again off the pace back there. And we're just, we're going to turn, because I heard him. We're going to turn and just kind of soft pedal a bit. So Davis's plan is to ride 18 to 20 miles an hour, mostly. That's on flat roads, whatever. So when we hit those rollers, she's right there. when we hit those rollers, she doesn't press any harder because that's not our goal right now. She's training for some event, I heard, and I think that's what she's trying to do, is just ride at a steady pace and get the hours in her legs. So after a few miles, Mary hangs with her, and we end up just riding to a prearranged meeting spot. So at this point, we know she's familiar with the route. We know what's going on. So I think Alan is in front there. And Alan knows that we're soft pedaling so we can keep the group together. So he's not going very hard here. But, you know, we're climbing. My thing is, when I'm climbing, I just want to get some kind of a rhythm, because I haven't found a very easy way to climb a hill unless you downshifting like your smallest ratio or so. But I like to kind of get a bit of a workout, because we ride out here to ride these hills, and so we're just keeping it between zone 2 to 4, thereabouts. That most of the time we ride, those are the zones. Zone 4 I feel like is the most effective training zone if you press for time on a hard day. You know, if you're doing a long ride, of course you guys know zone 2, you know, to build your endurance. But you know, sweet spot is like at the bottom of zone 4, thereabouts. It's kind of a fine area. So all we want to do is just ride these climbs steadily. But the thing that what I talked about David's doing, if you're training to improve in the climbs, you can't do what she's doing all the time. Now maybe she's just doing it for a while, because you need to have rides where you work harder gears at the same cadence on those climbs, so that you can build your strength in your legs. And then there are days when you can ride the same climbs and use a low ratio to stay in the lower zones and not really press your legs that much. You have to have the variety so that you can improve. And with her body weight and watts per kilo, I'm sure she could be awesome on these climbs. But, you know, I'm sure she has a reason why she's holding back at this point. So, like I said, everybody has different goals. So we're just riding. We have prearranged meeting points, so we're not worried about it. She knows the route. So we're just going to keep going. I sit behind Alan for a while, and then in a little while, I move around to the front. So it doesn't matter what size the group is. If you're in a very big group and you're sitting in the back and it's easy for you, you can either sit in the wind more, or you can go near the front and take more poles so you can get your workout. Whatever you want to do. And then the other people that want to ride a little less hard can sit in the draft longer or more. I always look back for cars before I move over, just to make sure nothing's coming. Eliminates surprises. That's why I made that video about how to look back without weaving or changing your line. It's important. I'm more comfortable doing that than using mirrors like you see Paul here on his handlebar. I have those. I've tried them. I could not get comfortable using them to trust them. Doesn't mean they don't work. They might work for some people, because the mirror that Davis uses on her helmet, I have one of those. I tried them, didn't care for them. I like the idea of the one in the bar end there, but it seemed to rattle around a lot, and the image was distorted. Just, I want to be sure. So I'm back at the front, just riding this climb. Same effort as before. Same cadence. Whatever gear I'm in, I will let me do the cadence. The gears are not going to be the same because the grades of the climbs vary. This one is probably 0.7. That's why it says 0 up there. Now it says slightly downhill. It's very humid. See Alan's wiping his brow. And if you haven't been out in it that much, it takes a while to get used to it. It says 21C, but it feels warmer. So So because it's early in the morning, it's 7:30. 21C is actually a reasonable temperature, but the humidity is 93, 94%. So it's like a steam bath. The road got a little flatter. You see my cadence went up. That's what I talk about. You got to be able to do all of it. Don't get hung up on one range. So the highway's clear, we're turning right. This is 2854, we're going north here. We're going west on that road, now we're headed north. I back off because I know Davis is not with us. You watch my cadence, I'm soft pedaling. So like every other stroke, I lighten up. That's how you soft pedal. I'm not downshifting, I'm just not. In a little while they'll say, okay, Mary's gonna stay with her. So that's Paul. Paul says, go ahead, Mary's gonna stay with her, let's ride. So we know we're gonna regroup because we're gonna regroup before we get to the forest. So we'll ride probably about 7 or 8 kilometers and then we'll regroup. That's the way you want to do it. So everybody gets a workout and you don't make the people who are going slower feel like they're holding you up. Nothing wrong with that. Going hard for 8 kilometers, if that's your goal, is good enough. It's like a good interval. You know, you go hard for 8 kilometers in a breakaway, you can ride away from most people. So that's the key. So since it's just us, I go ahead and just decide to ride here. And this part of the highway goes up and down. It's very deceiving. The wind's coming from the right. That's what you're hearing for the most part. This is heavily traveled by cyclists. So they know we're out here in both directions. The shoulder is good. There aren't a whole lot of obstacles on it. So we use it. So now you see Paul in the back on his bars. This is what he likes. And in a little while he will motion to Paul, who's got the camera, to get around it. And then he says, oh, I'm okay. But that's what he wanted. He wanted to be the last guy so he could rest on his bars. Because this road is slightly up. The minute it says 0, it's up. You will probably see it register in a kilometer or so. But we're going up and it's going to go, I think it's kind of northwest. Yeah, northwest. It's northwest and it's going to turn a little. You see it turning to the right. Right now it's northwest. It's going to go more north. In the winter, this is the coldest part of town. In the summer, it's a little cooler than where we live. So as we come out here, there are certain pockets where we're going downhill or by a creek. And you just get a blast of cool air. It really feels good. This is the area you want to come if you live where we are and to get a workout. This is the place to come to ride. We have a lot of Ironman participants that train out here. You can ride the Richards, you can do Anderson. You guys have seen our tape. This is the way to get out there as well. So as you guys watch me, I cannot dream of sitting on a sloping saddle. I just can't get my brain around how it would work. And so when somebody comes to defend that kind of foolishness, it bugs me because it doesn't mean that your saddle has to be perfectly level. Everybody's built differently. Some people have leg length discrepancies and other things that I've tried to accommodate. But anywhere from 1 to 3 degrees, as I said in that video that he was making a comment about. But what that told me was he didn't even watch the entire video. I talk about that all the time because I try to make these videos to where I cover everything and I give supporting practical information. But it was clear he didn't watch the whole thing. Nobody's saying your saddle shouldn't slope, but not 7%. I mean 7 degrees or whatever. it's like there's a limit to everything in life. Not everybody rides a perfectly level saddle. You got to find where your balance point is, and every human being is different. And so it bugs me when people come and make blanket statements like it applies to everybody. Oh, you know, the best breakaway riders ride sloping saddles. What does that mean? You didn't even identify who the person is or persons are, and you just make a statement like that. It's kind of weak. So if you're having a conversation with somebody, that your question would be, who are you talking about? Who is that person? Because there's got to be a reason why they sloped it and how much is sloped. And it had nothing to do with what I was talking about in the video, because I was talking about the excessive sloping that we were seeing. You know, so it was clear to me this person didn't know what they were talking about, and I'm like, how can you ride a bike and make a comment like that? You know, so right here, look at my position. My saddle's perfectly level because that works for me. My bike and my stem gives me a 64 point something reach, which is what my body needs. So I don't need to do anything but hold the bars, and I'm aero, and I can still walk. And my hips roll forward when I get into drops, because saddles are designed that way when you're seated right on it. You can see I'm in the saddle. The back is just there. I'm barely really touching it. At this point, my weight's on the pedals. When the power's down, it's on the pedals. That saddle's just there. If you remove that saddle, I wouldn't need it that much, because my weight's on the pedal. Right now, in this position, you unload the saddle. That's how you can unload your saddle without getting up when you go over obstacles. You transfer your weight to the pedals, and it's just there. So at this point, the weight's on my feet. And there's a light down there. That's why I stopped pedaling, because I really did not want to keep hammering all the way to the light. I mentioned the thing about saddles, sloping, and all of that because that's the reason I removed this comment. I don't want anybody to come and mislead. Everything I present to this channel, I try to back it up with practical examples. So if somebody wants to dispute it, they got to give me their examples, and then we can have a healthy discussion. Otherwise, it's just useless. You can sway people the wrong way. We got enough issues out there with people paying for bad fits, and, you know. So that's my pet peeve about that, what I call misinformation. So right here, Paul mentions that we're going to have to wait somewhere. I look back at him and he tells me, yeah.
Huh? We're gonna wait somewhere. Yeah, we can go up to.
So I said we can go up. He said stop sign. So there's a stop sign after a couple of rollers here, which is perfect because the hills will be done and we can wait there for them. They're probably 15-20 seconds behind us, not that much. So just be careful where you get your advice from, guys. You don't have to take it from me, but if somebody's giving you advice, ask questions.
When do you guys want to stop?
It needs to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, go with your gut. That's why everything I present, I try to make it practical. Show you how it works, instead of just talking about it. If I claim that somebody does something, I'm going to tell you who it is. I'm going to show you pictures and whatever articles written or how the person, if they were interviewed, if they're not local. So just because a champion rides a bike a certain way doesn't mean that's going to work for your body. This is where Paul wants Paul to come around him, and Paul said, I'm good. He wanted him to get in front of him so he can be on his bars. He wanted to be the last so he could rest on his bars. Because when it's hard, a lot of riders that have clip-ons prefer to be on the bars, and he didn't want to do it. Now, that's what I think anyway. I may be off, I don't know, but that's what I observed from watching the clips. So you guys notice that when the group is larger, I don't spend too much time at the front. I only pull a lot when it's necessary. Because if the group is larger, what I do is I don't draft very closely back there. I stay to where I'm catching a little more wind, so I still get a workout. But if there are enough people pulling, I don't have to come up there to compete for that. Plus, I like to get to the front when things are hard for everybody all around. And that's kind of, So just keep that in mind, that if you're riding in a group where you got a lot of guys at the front, you can stay in the top 5 to 7 riders or 10 riders and just wait for your turn to get up there. There will be plenty of times to work hard, and there are other ways you can work hard. But when you're with a group that's smaller and you're not finding a lot of people that can or want to pull, that's your opportunity to get a good workout by staying at the front longer. That's not the time to attack a small group, because you're just going to break it up. So if you're feeling great, hold yourself back, ride at the front longer, keep the pace hard, but stay there longer, as opposed to those short twists, because those are the things that really break up a group. And as I've explained in our winter rides, yeah, we can go harder, but then we wouldn't be able to keep the group together. So I'm just going hard enough by feel to make sure everybody's getting a workout, because if these guys weren't liking this pace, somebody would have come around me, and then they wouldn't have to say anything. I would gauge it by, okay, they came around, they lifted it a little bit, so then the next time I got to the front, I would try to mirror what they did, because that's their way of telling you, let's bring it up a little. Those are the things you pay attention to. This is why I don't have earplugs or anything when I'm riding my bike. I'm paying attention to these little details. A rider going the other way, I waved at him. There's a stop sign over there. There is a lane that's closed off. That's a dead-end road. There's nothing going back there. So that's a great spot for us to meet. I let everybody know we're going to be turning. So we turn over here so we can regroup.
Yeah, that's not going to get through there. Where we're going, this will take us to 149.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So we're going to go on this road. We're going to go west to 149. We're just waiting for the ladies to catch up here. So we turn the camera off, and then after the ladies catch up, we ride up. And here we're getting to the forest. There's a rider behind us. He's not with us. We're going to go south in the forest. So I'm at the back of the group. I turn on the camera, clean the lens, because when I put the camera up, I put it in the top of my jersey, because the gimbal is attached, so it's a little clunky. I don't like to put it in my pockets. It's done some damage to certain jerseys I had, so I store it at the top of my neck, back down my back, and it's comfortable there. So when I turn it on, Alan's at the front pulling. That's what I was saying. And when I turn it on, I clean the lens, because sometimes you get perspiration on the lens. I make sure it's clean. So once I did that, I fell off the pace here. So right about here, I noticed I'm staying behind Davis, because what I want to do is encourage her to stay on Mary's wheel. Because we're going up and down. This is 149. It's up and down. This is another heavily traveled area by cyclists. The guy that was behind us is going to come and pass the group here. There he is. That's the guy that was behind me when I started the camera. He might be headed out to Richards or somewhere. That's the direction anyway. We're going up a few miles and we're going to go right, which is south. He's going to continue north. So the gap begins to open as this road goes up slightly. The boys are pressing on the pedals. I stay on Davis's wheel, hoping to get her to put more force in there, but she's not interested. So I roll past her on the right, but I don't try to catch the group at this point. I just go up softly, give her a wheel, and I start edging the speed up. If you look at my cadence, it dropped a little bit. I'm not changing my gearing. I just kind of slowed it a little bit to give her something, and I start to edge it up, But then I started to gap her, and I said, she's not interested in pushing harder. So after a little while, I decided to just ride up to the group up there. And these are the areas where you can get your workout. So I've been pulling at the front. Everybody's kind of doing a longer ride today. You know, Paul's coming up with injury. Alan's been traveling. Everybody else wants to do something different. So this way I get my workout. So now if you watch, my cadence go up, my speed goes up, effort goes up, heart rate going up. I'm riding up to those guys there. You hear my tires as I stand. I'm standing. Just to change my rhythm. That's my only reason to stand. And I sit back down and work the gear. So you can see the group up there. You see that guy who went past. I'm not going super hard. I'm going hard enough to encourage Davis to keep me in her range, but also hard enough to close the gap to these guys. This camera's wide angle, so I get up to them pretty quickly, but it makes it look like they're still far, but they're not. I stand again. The road's going up here. That says 2%. You feel it. So the forest is coming up. So before the forest, I catch up to them. I let them know we're turning. So we ride this forest free and clear. We don't wait for anybody here because after you get out of the forest, there's an area where we stop and we wait. It's a shaded area. That's a normal regroupment point. So we all know that. Everybody knows that. So in the forest, we just go. So a little bit here, I tell Paul back here, who's in front of Mary, I tell him that to watch out for a hole, and then he explains to me, oh, I ride here all the time. I'm always training. And so we laughed about it. Because the road has some bumps. You got to pay attention here. So then he proceeds to tell me that he trains there all the time. So I laughed. This is a nice shot. Look at that sun coming through the trees there. It's just beautiful. So at this point, we know Davis is in the forest. All of us are here. We're just going to ride the forest.
Yeah, it's good road though. Quiet. Yeah, they need to leave it like this because if it's painful.
So Mary and Paul and myself were talking about the road surface. We're saying that if they improve it, there will be more cars using it, so that you leave it the way it is. You know. At some point they'll probably come and do some work. It's probably been here a while without any improvement. So I let Paul know I've been filming him the whole time from the highway, and I slip him the camera here. I think he gets the camera. Yeah, he takes the camera. So when Paul's on the ride, I get a break from camera duty. It's nice. So right here, my back tire is gonna slide out a bit as we go around the corner. I don't know if it's here. I think it is. Yeah, right here, right there. You hear that? Replay. Yeah, it slipped, but because I was seated, I ride 28s on the rear. It doesn't matter what tire you ride. I felt it slip, but I didn't feel it slide out per se. You know, the back tire is easily controlled when you're seated with your hips. So for people watching, it's scarier. You just don't want to do any braking or anything. You just steer. I didn't need to do anything. It slipped. It got its grip back, and I completed the turn. So there was some kind of sand or something in that one spot as I turned.
Be careful.
These are the little holes in the road that we point out. You know, it's just the road's just old. They need to come and kind of do something. It's been here for a long time. It's all cracked up. I still like it though. I like the terrain. There's all the trees. It's just nice and comfortable even in the heat of summer. There's a nice piece of pavement here. It's like they've been out here repairing sections of the road because the age of the pavement varies. You can see how the patch is peeling away. Yeah. And all I'm doing is I'm reading the road and making sure I pick my path. It saves your wheels and it's just the way to ride. Going directly into the south wind. The wind is now in our face and from the left. Because this place has all these trees and it's twisty, you don't always get buffeted all the time. We primarily come through here so we can get the hills because you will see the hills are just thick and fast in a few miles. So you get a workout going south in the forest. This is a slight grade. Mary messing with Paul. You put the camera behind, she gave it hands up. Victory salute. And look at that. That's why I think I told Alan, look at that bad boy. Just beautiful road. So surprisingly to me, I had been expecting Paul to take it easy through here. And we get to a point where I think we come to the first major climb. And Paul attacks on the left. And the three of us started to sprint up the climb. I think that's the climb coming up in the distance there. If you look, you see how the road kind of goes down and up. I think right about here, I don't know if this is where I think Paul goes to the left. Yeah, right there. Paul attacks on the left, Alan's in the middle, I'm on the right. So I'm going on the right, Paul's on the left, and then I kick it into another gear to finish this little climb. I sit down to work it, and Alan comes on the right and he says, I'm on your right. So I just notched over a bit to give him room. Neither Alan nor I were expecting Paul to sprint there, so it caught us by surprise. So as you can see in the replay, once I realized he was sprinting, it took me a while to get going. And once I got going, I heard Alan shifting before he could get in the gear he wanted to come. You can see how easily I transitioned from the sprinting position back into the saddle to continue the speed I had gained. It all begins with fit. And then, yeah, that was one climb now. There will be another one. So right here, I think there's a turn. I tell Alan we're going right. I think it's at the end here, but I let him know we're going to be turning. So we had a good little turn of speed. So we're turning right. So Alan said, I'll get your blood going. So I told him the first time Paul and I came out there, we had to stop to check the map to make sure we're making the right turn. I think after that sprint, there's a guy towing a trailer that he needs to get back in. So I moved to the front, and it was clear for a bit, and I think I waved him around. But then a car starts to come, so he spotted the car, and he slotted back in behind us. Because these roads are narrow. They really can't pass in the lane. I think after this car, we go around the curve because I want him to pass so we can ride. He's sitting back there. I wave him over, but you see there's another curve over there. We don't see the car. He starts to come and he spots there's a car coming around the curve. So he goes back. Then Paul tells me to keep going. And this is a climb. It says 1%. It keeps going up. And it's going to go left. So I decide I'm just going to ride it till we get in the open so this guy can go by. Because we got more climbs coming. I think after this curve he can see, and then what I do is I just go ahead and stop pedaling so he can get by. After this rider goes by, I just stop pedaling. That way he can get by us. Now we can resume what we're doing. So a lot of the climbs in the forest here, they don't look like climbs, but you feel them more than you see them. So you always have to be on top of your gearing. This section you get a little bit of a break and then it's gonna bite again once we go around that turn. Look at, there's the climb. So we started to go downhill. The road's kind of rough, so you got to read the road. I'm just trying to keep my rhythm the same, downhill or uphill. So I shift up when I need to go down the hill. As soon as we hit that, I find the appropriate gear. The road starts to go up. It's a little bumpy in the middle. I move to the right. I can kind of feel Alan on my left. Then I turn on the power here. This is the cadence I like to use when I'm climbing for long periods of time, like 20 minutes or more. 75 to 85. There's another climb coming. Right there I shift up. I'm in a harder gear. Road's a little bumpy as you approach the climb, so I'm reading the road. And right as we begin, I let them know that it's bumpy, and then I use my hips to go around the obstacles in the road without disturbing Alan. Watch that. I did a replay here. It's right there. Use your hips. So I didn't use any more road than I needed to. Alan moved over, but it wasn't necessary. He just didn't know what I was doing. That's how you can move around smoothly. We're climbing here. It's going to curve to the right. Now it's registering, but you feel it the whole way. And that's the same way when you're climbing mountain passes. They don't always hit large gradients, but you feel it. This one's 4%. It's a good length. It goes from 4%, then it says 0, then it'll kick back up again. So you're just climbing.
Same guy?
Same guy.
Now what they're talking about here is about a couple of weeks ago, or was it last week? I think it was 2 weeks ago when we came through the forest when I didn't film the forest. I think it was last week. There was a guy here on the track that ended up, he's behind this guy here. I think I froze it. There he is. Same guy got off his motorcycle at the stop sign. We're standing there waiting to regroup, waiting for the riders that had fallen back. He wants us to get off the road. And so somebody told him, do you realize that everybody here can kick your ass? Anybody you chose to mess with. And so one of the guys named Victor said, that's like telling me to beat up my dad. Because he's an old guy. He's just crazy. Get off your bike to come mess with people. Anyway, that's what we did on Saturday. This is coming out the end of the forest. So hope you guys got a chance to get out and get some K's in. Keep the doctors fired. Keep moving. Get out there.